No one in the Empire had seen those words in centuries. They appeared only once more when a human bled. The medical bay was a place of certainty. Machines knew every bloodline, every gene, every heritage. They could trace a warrior's ancestry back to the founding of dynasties, or a noble's line to the first emperors. Nothing surprised them, nothing ever had. Until the human. The moment his blood slid into the analyzer, the bay changed. The vial hissed, glass pitted and smoked as if the crimson itself were burning through the world's most sterile machine. Lights guttered, alarms shrieked, and the medic stumbled back, claws twitching in disbelief. Then the scanner locked, froze, and printed 3 words across its glowing face. Survivor of a dead star. The staff whispered in horror. They remembered the legends, the warnings, the forgotten entries buried deep in the archives. That phrase wasn't supposed to exist anymore. Civilizations tagged with it had burned away long before the Empire. Species stamped with it were nothing but ash. And yet here it was on a screen that never lied, while the human sat quietly on the bed, blood dripping from his arm, eyes steady and unreadable. His name was Adam Mercer, 35 years old, born on an orbital station above the shattered remains of what had once been fertile ground. He had come into the medical bay after a training accident. Nothing serious, a blade nicked to his forearm while sparring with a fellow recruit. It should have been routine. Instead, his blood corroded the machine built to define every life in the Empire. The chief medic, a tall, slate-skinned figure named Koresh, stared at the melting analyzer. His voice rasped like steel on stone. "That is not possible." Another medic, younger, jabbed trembling claws at the display. "The system cannot be wrong. It has never been wrong, ever." Adam pressed the gauze tighter to his arm. "It looks wrong to me," he said calmly, nodding at the smoking device. "Machines aren't supposed to sizzle when you use them." "Quiet," Koresh barked. "Do you not understand what has happened?" Adam tilted his head. "I think you're the ones trying to figure that out." Protocol demanded the blood be tested again. A fresh vial was drawn. The needle slid into Adam's vein with sterile precision. He didn't flinch. The medics whispered that most species would faint under the strain of 2 rapid draws. The second analyzer hummed to life. Its glass chamber accepted the vial, fluid cycling into its crystalline veins. For 10 full seconds the room was silent, except for the soft thrum of calibrated scans. Then the hum turned into a shriek. Sparks spat from the casing, panels warped, acidic smoke filled the air. The machine rattled against the counter, then shut itself down with a single flashing phrase across its dying screen. "Survivor of a dead star." Koresh staggered back. 2 failures. Impossible. These analyzers have processed 6,000 species across 5 centuries. 7,000, corrected another. "It does not matter. The system is never wrong. And now it says," his voice dropped lower, "it says this." Adam set the gauze aside, letting the medics see the clean line of stitches he had placed himself with their kit. "You still haven't told me what those words mean." No one answered at first. Their eyes flicked to the phrase still glowing on the ruined screen. Finally, Koresh spoke. "A dead star is not a celestial body, it is an archive classification. Civilizations erased in totality, planets rendered sterile, cultures annihilated by plague, fire, or war. Their names were stricken, their bloodlines ended, only fragments of wreckage remain." Adam leaned back against the bed frame. "And survivors?" "There are none," Koresh said sharply. "That is the meaning. Once a star is declared dead, all who belong to it are lost." Adam gave a small, humorless smile. "Guess I'm bad at following rules." The medics stared. The youngest whispered, "He is smiling. Why is he smiling?" Because, Adam thought, the machine had only told a truth his people had carried in silence for generations. Koresh ordered additional tests, not with the analyzers, with older, simpler tools that could not be corrupted. A centrifuge spun Adam's blood into layers of plasma and cells. Microscopes revealed structures unfamiliar even to the most seasoned medics. His red cells clung stubbornly under conditions that ruptured most species. White cells bristled with receptors adapted for pathogens, no archive listed. His DNA twisted in ways the Empire's sequencing algorithms flagged as corrosive irregularities. The medic recording data finally muttered. This blood has scars, adaptations to radiation, tolerance to toxins, viral resistance unlike anything in the archives. Koresh looked at Adam. What world made you? Adam answered softly. We called it Earth. The medics searched their databases. The result came back blank. No such inhabited world. Earth existed in their maps only as a note in the margins. Sterile, tectonically unstable, marked uninhabitable 10 millennia ago. And yet Adam Mercer sat before them, living proof their archives were wrong. The council would demand answers. Adam knew it already. He could see it in the frantic calls the medics made, in the nervous glances at the door. But for now, he pressed a fresh strip of gauze against his wound and waited. He had been through worse than interrogation. Much worse. The Empire thought the analyzer had revealed a mystery. To Adam, it had simply spoken aloud the truth written in his veins. Humanity was not new, not fragile, not lost. They were survivors. And survival was a language older than empires. The chamber still reeked of scorched circuitry. Engineers had already sealed the ruined analyzers in containment cases, as though Adam's blood might still crawl out of them. No one touched him directly. The medics circled as if he were both patient and plague. Koresh stood rigid at the center. His slate-gray skin gleamed under the surgical lights. We will attempt a tertiary reading, he declared. The council will not accept failure without full confirmation. The technicians wheeled in a towering unit, older than the others, reserved for genetic air verifications of nobility. Its crystal lattice pulsed faintly, awaiting input. Adam extended his arm again without being asked. The nurse hesitated before drawing, her hands trembling. When the vial clicked into the slot, the room went utterly silent. The machine hummed, then roared. Steam vented in violent bursts. Warning sigils flared red across the walls. Every medic stumbled back, shielding their faces from the sparks. And then the verdict seared across the display, brighter than before. Survivor of a dead star. Below it, for the first time, a secondary line of data flickered into existence. Species, unclassified. Archive reference, none. The crowd of medical staff gasped. Some hissed prayers to ancestors. Others stared at Adam as though he had just become something other than human. Koresh's voice cracked. No matches in the entire database. 7,000 cataloged species, and yours is not among them. Adam pressed his thumb against the bandage, checking the bleed. Then I guess you missed a file. The younger medic shook his head violently. No, it cannot be missing. This is the Empire's living archive. Nothing is missing. Yet the truth glared at them from the machine's unblinking eye. Minutes later, the guards arrived. Not the usual sentries, but the crimson-armored watch, each one towering and armed. Their commander, a four-eyed veteran named Veyron, barked, "Seal the room. No one leaves. Council wants the human intact." Adam chuckled. "Intact? You make me sound like cargo." The commander's upper eyes narrowed. "Cargo does not corrode analyzers." Koresh thrust the data tablet forward. "You must see this yourself, Commander. The system declares him survivor class. You know what that means." Every soldier stiffened. Even Veyron's voice lost its steady rumble. "That designation is forbidden. It is reserved for extinct lines only. How can he bear it?" Adam finally spoke, his voice calm but carrying weight. "Because we don't die easy." The council chamber was built for awe. Vaulted ceilings, banners older than most colonies, and a circle of seats carved from the petrified bones of leviathans. The air was thick with the hum of translators and the sharp tang of disinfectant from the medics who had escorted him. Adam stood at the center, under a shaft of pale light. His cut had clotted cleanly, stitches holding. He stood steady, hands loose at his sides, while the council's many eyes and tendrils and scales fixed on him. The presiding elder, Marith of the Echelons, adjusted her long mantle. "Human, you are brought before this council under suspicion of false classification. The analyzers have branded you with a mark that no living being has borne for millennia." She lifted a claw, and the hollow screens lit, repeating the phrase for all to see. "Survivor of a dead star." The council hissed and muttered. Marith raised her voice. "Explain this. What world claims you?" Adam took a breath. We called it Earth. Dozens of datapads flickered as council members keyed the name. The archivists whispered. Reports streamed across the hollow displays. Finally, one voice cut through. Earth, Class 4 planet. Marked sterile after orbital bombardments and biosphere collapse. Declared uninhabitable 10,000 years ago. No surviving cultures. Gasps circled the chamber. Marith's mantle twitched in disbelief. Yet here you stand, flesh and blood. Adam's expression didn't change. You declared us gone because it was easier than remembering we lived. Historians were summoned. They spread fractured records across the chamber floor. Orbital ruins, seismic scars, incomplete fragments of transmissions. No mention of survivors. No indication that anything human had endured. Yet, Adam's blood had screamed otherwise. Koresh presented the medical evidence. His DNA bears adaptive scars, radiation-tolerant alleles, redundant immune pathways. His cells metabolize oxygen variations lethal to other life. These are the remnants of calamity, carved into the genome. His people have endured multiple extinction events, and survived. The council fell into silence. One elder finally whispered, "Survivor species are anomalies. They are not supposed to persist. Their worlds die. Their names fade. They are myths." Adam looked up into the circle of watching eyes. "We are not myths. We are what happens when a world tries its best to kill you and fails." The words carried across the chamber, heavy as stone. Outside the chamber, rumors spread like fire. A human mislabeled, a human unclassified, a human marked by the scanners as something older, something the Empire itself had no right to name. And everywhere the phrase traveled, it carried the same weight. Survivor of a dead star. The council chamber dissolved into chaos. Voices rose, overlapping in shrieks and growls, translators struggling to keep pace. Words like contamination, forbidden, and apocalypse-born rattled off the walls. Commander Veyran barked orders to his Crimson Guard. "Keep him under sight at all times. No one touches the human, no one." Adam remained still at the center, the pale light throwing his shadow tall across the stone floor. His cut had stopped bleeding entirely, the gauze strip dark but dry. He didn't fidget, didn't argue. He only watched the storm of alien panic unfold around him, arms crossed loosely as if this were nothing more than another long briefing. Elder Marith slammed her mantle against the floor. The chamber quieted, though unease still pulsed through the air like static. Her voice was sharp. "Order, we will have order." She fixed her gaze on Koresh. "Run the secondary checks again." Koresh bowed stiffly, his eyes haunted. "We did, multiple times. Each analyzer burned out but produced the same verdict. The portable genetic sequencers confirm anomalies consistent with survivor class designation. It is not error." Another elder hissed. "Then it is sabotage. Someone tampered with the machines." Koresh's voice rose. "Impossible. The analyzers are sealed, independent. To tamper with them is to corrupt the entire archive system. No one has the access." Whispers spread. Adam finally spoke, his tone quiet but steady. "You're all afraid of 3 words on a screen. That's the real problem here." The silence that followed was heavy. To calm their panic, or perhaps to inflame it, the council ordered the medics to perform full-body diagnostics. Adam was escorted into a sterile dome deep beneath the chamber, lined with instruments more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. He sat shirtless on the table while scanning beams traced over his body, mapping every organ, every scar. Transparent screens blossomed around him, filled with layers of human anatomy annotated in alien glyphs. One medic muttered as he zoomed in on Adam's bone density. "Cortical thickness exceeds tolerance. Stress fractures healed and reinforced. Repeated trauma events catalogued." Another read the immune assays. "Antibody repertoire is endless. Cross-reactivity suggests prior exposure to pathogens no archive recognizes." Koresh himself ran the metabolic panel. "Cells exhibit radiation-hardened properties. Mitochondrial structures are unusual, optimized for energy scarcity." Adam only raised an eyebrow. "You're saying I'm hard to kill. You could have just asked." None of them laughed. Hours later, the diagnostics confirmed what the analyzers had screamed. Adam's blood carried the signature of catastrophe. His very biology was a story of survival written in the scars of DNA. When he was returned to the chamber, Marith faced him again. Her eyes narrowed, her voice low. "What star made you? What apocalypse did you crawl from?" Adam met her gaze without flinching. "Earth. You labeled it sterile. You were wrong." A ripple passed through the council. Historians checked their records again, searching desperately for contradictions, for explanations that would allow them to dismiss him. But there was only one entry: Earth, uninhabitable, no survivors. Adam continued. "You want to know what we survived? Which one? The nuclear winters or the floods? The plagues or the famines? The asteroid strikes or the wars that followed? Because we've had all of them. And we're still here." A hushed murmur spread across the chamber. One elder whispered, "Impossible. No species could endure more than one extinction event." Adam gave the faintest smile. "We didn't endure one, we endured all of them." The panic took on a new shape, then not the fear of contamination, but the fear of implication. If humans truly carried the legacy of endless disasters, if their bodies had been tempered by calamity itself, then what did that make them? Whispers spread through the nobility beyond the chamber. Was the Empire harboring a threat? A relic forged in apocalypse, wearing a calm smile? Koresh finally spoke again, voice breaking. "The analyzers never classify incorrectly. He is not anomaly, he is proof." Marith closed her mantle slowly, her eyes unreadable. "Then we must decide whether proof such as this is too dangerous to exist." The chamber erupted once more. And still, Adam stood steady in the light, waiting. The chamber had become a storm. Elders argued in tongues so old the translators faltered, their voices shrill with panic. Guards bristled at the edges of the circle, rifles in hand, eyes fixed on the man who stood quietly in the center. The word survivor clung to the air like smoke that refused to clear. Elder Marith finally struck her mantle against the floor. The sound rang like a hammer, silencing the uproar. "Enough, we will hear him speak." Every gaze locked on Adam. He lifted his hands slowly, palms outward. "You want answers. I'll give you fragments, because that's all any human really has. We don't keep archives the way you do, we keep scars." The council listened, tension heavy as stone. Adam's voice stayed calm, measured. "We lived on a world that tried to erase us. Once it burned us with fire from our own hands, wars fought with weapons that poisoned sky and soil. The air grew thick with fallout, but some dug deep, some learned to breathe dust, and our children's children adapted. When the seas rose and swallowed our coasts, we moved inland. When the ice came, we huddled in caves, burned what little we had, and waited until the sun returned. We faced plagues that should have emptied us, but every time, someone who carried the resistance in their blood and passed it on. You say no species survives more than one extinction. We survived all of them. We didn't have a choice. Our world never gave us peace. It forged us through calamity after calamity until survival became our inheritance." His eyes swept the chamber. "That's what your machine saw in me. Not anomaly, not contamination, just a history of refusing to die." Silence followed. Then one of the younger historians, her scales pale with shock, whispered, "If this is true, then Earth was never dead. We erased a living people from our records." Another elder snapped, "Lies, myths to frighten children. This human fabricates." Koresh slammed his data slate onto the dais. "The scans do not fabricate. His genome bears markers no living archive can explain: evidence of radiation exposure, genetic bottlenecks, recombinations that only occur under environmental collapse. He is proof of disaster endured, not imagined." All eyes returned to Adam. Marith's mantle twitched once. "Then answer the final question. Why? Why did you endure when greater civilizations perished?" Adam thought for a moment before answering. "Because when others break, we adapt. When others mourn, we endure. When stars die, we learn to live in the dark." His words rang out across the chamber like the tolling of bells. The council sat in silence, each elder weighing the truth against the fear clawing at their hearts. Finally, Marith rose. Her mantle spread like wings behind her. "The verdict is clear. The analyzers have spoken, the medics have confirmed, and the human has testified. The classification stands. Humanity is not anomaly. Humanity is survivor. Gasps echoed through the hall. Mareth's voice grew sharper. Mark this well. The Empire has misjudged them. We called them fragile. Newcomers, a people unfit for conquest. But they are not fragile. They are the echo of a world that refused to end. Their blood carries calamity, and their flesh carries endurance. To face them is to face the memory of apocalypse itself. The declaration burned itself into every record, every archive. Humanity, survivor of a dead star. The news spread faster than fire. Across the Empire, soldiers who had mocked humans for their fragility now looked twice, wondering what kind of endurance lurked in their veins. Predators who had dismissed Earthborn settlers as soft began to speak of them in lowered voices, not with laughter, but with unease. And in the outer colonies, where humans had quietly built lives under suspicion, the words reached them too: survivor. For the first time, the galaxy had named them correctly. Adam was released from the chamber under heavy guard, though not as prisoner. The Council had no law for this, no precedent for a people who should not exist but did. He walked out into the night air, stars sharp above the spires. Koresh caught him before he left. The medic's voice was low, heavy with respect. You understand what you've done today? You've changed what the Empire believes is possible. Adam shook his head. I didn't do anything new. My people have always carried this. You just didn't see it until the machine told you. Koresh hesitated. And what happens now? Adam looked up at the sky, where countless worlds spun in silence. Now you know we're not easy prey. You know we'll survive whatever comes next. That's all we've ever needed. That night, Adam sat alone in his quarters. He unwrapped the bandage from his arm, inspected the clean line of stitches. The skin around it had already started to knit tight. A minor wound, healing the way thousands had before. But he thought of the firestorms his ancestors had endured, the plagues survived, the ice that had not ended them, the wars that had not erased them. All of that condensed into blood that corroded the Empire's perfect machines. He leaned back and let the quiet settle. For the first time in years, he felt no need to explain himself. The truth was written in him. The Empire had finally read it. Weeks later, when a commander of the Crimson Guard approached him with the same question the Council had asked, "Why did you endure when others perished?" Adam gave the same answer, steady and calm. "Because we don't know how to stop." The commander said nothing. He only saluted. And in that simple gesture, Adam knew the Empire understood at last. Humanity was not a fragile newcomer. They were a people tempered in catastrophe, carrying the memory of apocalypse in their veins. Not defeated, not forgotten. Survivors. Always survivors.